Like, Scoob, what are you doing? Hang around, it's time for the Sooner Than Later Presents podcast. Question mark. Like, well, I couldn't think anything better than maybe a double dog cheeseburger. Like, let's see what they got in store.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first official Sooner Than Later Presents podcast. Question mark. Sponsored by I Paid For It. Please pay me back if you don't mind. Also, water, God's drug. Without it, you will die. Too much of it, you may die. Also, it is the fountain of youth. Hello, everybody. This is your future player, JDK here, coming in to you live and hot from the first ever attempt at doing a live podcast videotape at the same time. This is going to be a segment I like to call the Future Plans Weekly Update. This one will be for May 1st through the 25th. We're going to start off simple. The FPS Comedy Weekly Improv Jam. I had started this with intent back in March, and when I did, come April, my first two attempts were actually piggybacking on the Armory Friday. But then, for June, I actually rented the space every Friday at the Seattle Center House Armory in the Theater of Puget Sound Studios at Studio G every Friday from 7:30 to 9 p.m. So this is coming up on the 5th week. The first 4 weeks, nobody showed up. So my expectations of myself are pretty simple. I'm going to be renting out for the next month as well, with the 10th taken off for something I'll talk about next. But most importantly, my intent is to carry this. It's not a failure. It's actually an educational experience about the importance of recognizing your brand and marketing your brand. And also, simply put, I'm a noob and I got to grow and experience. And that's my intent. So FPS Comedy continues. It's just a pretty simple thing. It's just a workshop with my 14 plus years of improv. I apologize for this. I'm not sure what was going on. The video clipped out for a second. That was very weird. So, all right then. The Future Players Society presents Improv We Play. Will continue as follows. So, that leads into something interesting that is coming up actually in June. However, I am going to mention that as well in my future plans. The final segment for this segment, which is Future Plans Weekly Update. But for this special case, it's going to be the 1st through the 25th, as a lot of time has passed since my last video with on update content. So, we've been doing stand-up comedy every Sunday at Jai Tai off of Broadway, up in what we call Capitol Hill in the Seattle local scene. It's pretty simply put. It's a cult because it's cheaper, and it's called Comedy Church, and it's every Sunday at Jai Tai, which is a Thai restaurant on Broadway. I thoroughly have enjoyed myself, and I plan to continue going to Comedy Church, and it's a fantastic workshop space. I highly recommend checking it out when you get the chance. Corinne's an amazing woman as well. And that leads to NBC Stand-Up as well as Kill Tony. So, this past weekend of May 18th and 19th, I went to audition for something called NBC Stand-Up. It's your chance to perform in front of 4 executives, casting agents, etc., for the NBC network, one of which was a casting agent for Stand-Up for Jimmy Fallon late night. You would think that would be the perfect connection for someone working to get on Saturday Night Live. So that was a privilege. I got to perform 1 minute. I have a segment special that I'm going to add into the podcast for this, and that will be live from the waiting line for the NBC audition. I was going to also do a podcast segment from Kill Tony. However, I felt that was a bit redundant, and also I'm not really wanting to piggyback off the man. I find that my comedy is actually a little bit higher brow potentially, but mainly just a different overall network. That doesn't mean, though, that I didn't have a fantastic time. So, starting with the NBC stand-up, I will say that I did learn a few things, one of which is that I should just do my hair immediately when I leave the home from now on, as opposed to wait until the last second to do it. Another thing that I realized is that if you're going to promote yourself instead of do comedy, you should just go full on and just simply promote yourself. It's unfortunate you don't get any feedback, and I did only make it through to the first round, which was just for the opening for the minute. But that being said, I think I did a phenomenal job. I definitely got laughs from the house, and I certainly hope that they have my information. They might actually be interested in contacting me for Saturday Night Live auditions, potentially. Other than that, I personally felt that for our round, Levi Maness deserved a lot more respect than he got. So I have no idea what they were looking for, but based off of the first two rounds and off of what I saw chosen, and I still haven't gotten to see who succeeded, if anyone from Seattle, as this was the first stop on their entire tour, and only, I believe, 8 out of 10 from the entire lot get picked. So here's to hoping a Seattle comic gets chosen amongst that. Or more than one Seattle comic would be phenomenal. But, if we could get someone from Oregon or Canada, that's close enough to the Pacific Northwest, just short of California. They do have a stop in San Francisco, so Seattle is my main hope. Which leads me to Kill Tony. So I brought up Levi Maness for a reason. Levi Maness is a comic that I really enjoy. I intend to get him on this podcast and actually have him do an interview with me discussing our history. So I don't want to divulge too much information, just short of saying that he has a history with Kill Tony. And so on Sunday night, my name in the bucket was secondary to my intent to see Levi perform. Unfortunately, I didn't realize there was a 5 o'clock show, and Levi performed at the 5 o'clock show. But the universe provides, and my name got pulled for Kill Tony's 9 o'clock show. And I got the privilege to go up on a podcast that I don't really follow that much, other than Levi Maness and a good friend of mine from Phoenix area and California area current, Dustin Hadlock, who is a good guy to see if you get the chance to see him performing. He's currently in Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles area, performing a mix of improv and stand-up. As well as Ashwin, cannot pronounce his last name, Indian last name, Nambanibahar, something along those lines. But Ashwin is notorious for Kill Tony because he was out smoking a cigarette, so he's blacklisted. And then Hadlock has actually performed twice, so that's interesting as well. Out of the Phoenix area, he performed for them. So I had the privilege to have my name pulled from the bucket. I went up and performed and got the privilege to rep Seattle, the 206, and everybody seems to have said and felt that I did very well. I wish I could say I got more networking out of it. However, the two connections that I did make feel very, very powerful, and I look forward to seeing what I can do with them in the future movement. One is a local Seattle comic, rapper, and artist, and the other is a Canadian arts teacher, instructor, phenomenal singer, and extra as seen on Sabrina from Netflix. And she was also very friendly. And so was her buddy, good friend. Boyfriend, I believe she said. Maybe fiance. Wasn't paying that much attention. But he actually was traveling with her and didn't get his name pulled the 2 times, which is unfortunate for him. It just goes to show, though, it really is playing in lucky, and you're fortunate if you do get called up. So I got called up, got interviewed by Tony Hinchcliffe. Brian Redband did not actually say anything that I noticed. The band, as they're called fondly, were dressed up as Newsies, so that was a lot of fun. They all razzed on me, and I feel like I did pretty well. The only thing I wish I had done is something that I intend to do should my name get pulled when I'm down in California in the future. And that was to give it up to Sammy Shore, as he recently passed away this Saturday. And it's really hard. It's really fresh, and he's a big motivator for me in my comedy and in my art. So I had the privilege to see Sammy Shore actually open up for his son Pauly, and I'll never forget. And Pauly was I wasn't expecting to laugh, but Pauly had me laughing. However, Sammy really won me over the whole night through. And he sang a song for us I'll never forget. And he's just an amazing man. He will be missed. And he's a founder, a father, and a legend for many, many, many people in the comedy world. Not just his own real son, Pauly Shore. So that was Kill Tony. And it was all right. Tony Hinchcliffe is actually a really genuine guy. And I really can say that I wanted to hate him, but I couldn't. He is truly there for all the comics, and he is truly there for people like Levi Maness and people like me. And I'm not ashamed of how I felt before. I'm just grateful that I've had this privilege to open my eyes and become a better comic, a better human, and all around just really, I'm very happy that Tony Hinchcliffe is not a fucking shitty ass human. Because that's one less person that I have to worry about dealing with. Now I look forward to anything and everything I get to do in affiliation with Kill Tony, Brian Redband, Kill Tony Presents, or anything really under the Death Squad umbrella corporation. Other than that, I wanted to do a production update. So I'm expecting to get my check by late June or mid-July. And when the check goes through, I'll really know what I can do. There have been a few suggestions about New York. So there's a strong chance that I may be going to New York in an attempt to get cast on Saturday Night Live. That being said, my current intent, however, is to put the money straight back into my productions. And specifically, my video content, hiring somebody on a weekly basis to market for me that specializes in marketing, and also potentially renting out a studio that is prepared for production on a major scale, and hiring a team of writers and being able to put on at least a 4-episode or more showcase on a weekly basis live, which would allow me to garner potentially local advertisers, which would allow me to continue paying, which would allow me to show Lorne Michaels and NBC how business-minded I am, how capable I am of leading a team, and most importantly, add value to me, which is the most important thing. I am valuable, and I must garner a following, because when I do, then we will all be happy, for me and for us, because I will be on Saturday Night Live where I belong. So that's the production update. And now comes the future plan segment. So we have our train tickets purchased for the 10th of June. Now, why would I bring up the 10th of June? Let me put it simply. My blood father and half-sister are coming to Washington, to Spokane. And why would that be important? Well, let me just say this. 23andMe is a fascinating thing. A little cousin of mine in the Seattle area, out of Fremont, actually. Ballard, actually, more importantly. Ballard. It was Ballard, not Fremont. I get them confused now and again. My little cousin, Hans, I believe, was the one that did it. He put his blood into the, or spit, or however it works, into the 23andMe database, and discovered somebody with our blood that wasn't known about in our family line that lived in Spokane. Now, why is that important? Well, those who know me know I was born in Spokane. My dad fucked his boss, and made me the bastard child that I am. That is neat. What is even more neat is on June 10th, I am taking a train to Spokane to meet up with them. And when I am there, we are all three going to meet Lucy and my half-sister, who is 1 month older than I am. Yes, if you are following what I just said, then you will understand. I have another sister who's 1 month older than me. That's what's happening on June 10th. Other than that, I fully intend to have, by the end of June, all of SNL Season 44 reviews in the books. I also intend to have my information all lined up, just short of the money to transact and pay for putting on my rap showcase, which will be featuring my beat maker, Brendan Johnson, Mystic for 280, and also local talent that I sign off on and want to showcase and appreciate. And that concert is intended to probably happen in August. All of this provided that I am capable of paying for everything, which is dependent on the check that should be coming as soon as late June. And then the podcast is going to be fully prepared, editing, segmented out, basically everything. Website set up, maybe even have interviews lined up, have everything set up. So by the end of June, I will have an actual podcast and YouTube channel synced up, running, and doing everything appropriately. Also, by the end of June, I intend to have basically, I'm not sure where I'm heading with this. However, I failed on my guitar goals, which meant I had to adjust them. Right? When I say fail, that's not a negative. It's a chance to succeed in a different way. So what I am going to do is I'm going to start a program where I learn one string at a time and stack them accordingly and practice for 30 minutes a day on each individual chord appropriately. And then probably most likely when I get to about 5 chords, condensing it down so it would be maybe 5 minutes for each chord as opposed to over 3 hours or something, whatever, it would be. And do this every day on top of my daily meditations, my daily yoga, my daily writing, my daily reading, my daily fitness, which is the other thing. I was doing a 13-day program. The dieting is almost fully intact. The meditation is intact. The only thing that's not intact is I need to begin an actual rigorous workout program, which will allow me to garner actual muscle mass. So the guitar and fitness is intended, and by the end of June, I intend to have everything set up, and not set up, but fully functioning. So I will most likely be able to play almost from memory, at least I would imagine 3 or 4 chords, which is the beginning of my ability to become an actual musician. As for the fitness, it's the same as the fashion. It's the same as what I'm doing right now. It's the reason I have a clean-shaven look. It's the reason that my hair is as smooth as it is right now. It's the reason that I use a special soap at night, but only once a day so I don't overdry my skin out. It's also the reason that I consider putting on makeup for shows, or even for just something as simple as this podcast. Finally, short films and comedy reel. I fully intend by the end of June to have figured out how to film my sets again without Jason. And I fully intend to have a comedy reel that I can put on this channel and also begin using to find myself shows that I can be paid for, which will then finally check off the list, paid for art. at least as it applies to the subtext category of comedy. And then short films. I have written short films for the last few months. Not written short films, short sketches. Excuse me. However, now I intend to begin the short film phase. Well, phase isn't the right word, but short films. I intend to have at least one or two, actually, I'm going to say it, you'll hear it right now, live on this podcast segment. By the end of June, I will have 2 short films. Each will be a short film by caliber of submission, which means 10 to 30 minutes minimum. Oh wait, that's a short. Short film is actually 30 to 45 minutes each. So, let me rephrase. 2 shorts or 1 short film by the end of June. And that's the end of this segment. Right on spot, basically 20 minutes. Plus or minus my editing skills, which will take effect sooner than later. I love you all. Thank you again for joining me. This has been another segment on Sooner Than Later Presents Podcast? ? This segment has also been brought to you by water, the fountain of youth, also God's drug. Without it, you will die. With too much of it, you will probably drown and die. That's the point of the joke.